How something should start always seems like the hardest part in the creative process. Most of the videos I make actually begin with me writing the ending and working backwards because I generally have no idea what I should say to open up the video. That first impression is the difference between getting people to lock in or go away, and it isn't something that's just limited to YouTube videos. All forms of media need to be able to sink their hooks into you with a gripping story or a curious premise that promises to bring you on a journey that's worth your time. Whether or not that's the case remains to be seen, but despite how the saying goes, many judge a book by its cover, or in this case, a video game and how it begins. I've recently played the demos for 2 games that have polar opposite problems in how they welcome the player, and I wanted to take some time to create a video going through the thought process of what these were, why they weren't enjoyable, and what could have been done to fix them. So I hope you stick around to see what not to do when introducing players to your game. I want to start off by saying that neither of these critiques are actually about the gameplay of the game itself. Rather, it's the framing that is used in order to introduce the player to the world they will inhabit. To begin with, let's take a look at the easier of the 2 dilemmas to solve. Demos for games are meant to give you a taste of what is to come and entice you and make you want to play that game's full release. In order to do this, there are a variety of tactics developers will employ to get you hooked. Most commonly, the devs will start you from the very beginning of the game and make you play about 30 to 60 minutes, usually capping it off with some sort of cliffhanger or boss fight. Sometimes they may give you the basics and then make you jump forward a bit in the game so that you can see how it all works in practice, but what is generally accepted is the fact that there's some sort of setting the stage that needs to be done in order to start the experience. Playing the demo for the game Once Upon a Puppet showcases what happens when you don't create the introduction, as it just plops you down with no sort of fanfare or context as to who you are, what you're doing, and what the world is even about. This is a poor choice to make for several reasons, but it can be mitigated if you had used some sort of introductory cutscene to set the tone. As I said before, this issue is really the easiest to address, and obviously if you play the full game you'll have already gone through the story that led up to this point. But as a demo, it fails to create that initial intrigue that needs to be there to make that player want to keep pressing forward with curiosity and ambition. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the main topic of this video, which is what happens when you dump too much onto the player. Again, this is a critique that is only about the opening portion of the game. Partially because I wanted to dive deeper into the idea of introductions in a game, and partially because I actually never made it to the real meaningful gameplay. The Necromancer's Tale is an upcoming story-rich RPG, and it requires a great deal of skill checks based on a variety of attributes that would allow you to progress through secrecy, diplomacy, blackmail, coercion, and seduction. How you determine your initial values for these attributes comes in the form of making decisions as the game narrates your upbringing. In theory, this method is a neat way of determining how your character will be shaped, but in practice, it leaves a lot to be desired with several annoyances along the way. Now, this whole introduction process did actually have some strengths. One of those strengths displayed was the relatively sound voice acting.
In the year of our Lord, 1701, the Republic of Venice went to war with the sovereign monarchy of Ralston.
The narrator reliably translates the wall of text as it propagates and overwhelms the player as if the developer had just learned how to create their own PowerPoint. Despite the good performance of the narrator, the mixing of the audio is sometimes off, with the voiceover becoming too quiet and clashing with the music.
One morning, your mother comes to your school. She takes you out, even though classes are not finished. She says everything is okay, but you do not believe her.
As he progresses to guide you along the history of the realm and your upbringing, you are sometimes given artwork to help paint the picture of what's going on. However, nearly every time this happens, you don't see the artwork until the very end of the passage being read, and it makes it feel pretty misplaced. If the devs decided to potentially change the format of a book being read to narration happening while these images were either being zoomed in or out of, or being composed in front of you, then it would likely make things more immersive and give the art a home rather than being a stale pop-up that occurs out of nowhere. As mentioned before, as you progress through the opening, you will be presented with a variety of scenarios that will determine the skill value your character will start off with. Games that try to bring some sort of character builder that gives you a reason behind your stats are few and far between, but I think it brings a great touch to start the game as opposed to having your player just arbitrarily select values that many people will min-max immediately because you have to have a certain build, otherwise you aren't playing right. With that being said, these games that allow for you to build your character through these decisions will almost certainly allow you to reallocate your points how you see fit before making it a permanent decision for your character. This is obviously the best choice to make thanks to the feeling of control and customization that a player has while playing through a story. But the principle of setting your character's backstory or being quizzed over who they are is objectively more engaging than ticking a number up or down. The main issue with the Necromancer's Tale is that it takes this engaging method and stretches it on for far too long. Let's look at Fallout 3 for an example. In this game, you have to take the GOAT test, which sets your initial skill proficiencies and values, and the whole opening sequence between you being a child and then you beginning your journey into the wasteland takes roughly 30 to 60 minutes to proceed through. During this time, you go through a variety of tutorials that teach you the mechanics for you to know once you are set loose, like firing a gun, the aforementioned GOAT test and the understanding of skills, and how to deal with bullies. The point I want to make is that all of this is interactive to some degree. You're basically living a quick synopsis of your early years of your life with some decisions impacting others, which also teaches you the importance of decision making once you leave. The Necromancer's Tale, on the other hand, takes the tell don't show approach to this whole upbringing by spending far too long telling you on what has happened to the world and to you as you grow up. It takes roughly 25 minutes of narration to get through all of what the demo has to offer before you're even allowed to sniff an ounce of gameplay. To make matters worse, there's even sections that literally will tell you that they have been removed or reduced due to the fact that this is a demo, meaning that upon full release, the time spent going through all of this will be substantially longer than it already is. As it drags on, all it does is highlight the minor annoyances like the audio mixing and the lack of art while dialogue is being read, and it creates this air of, why am I going through this? And will the payoff even be worth it? I put myself through this experience twice just to make sure that the developers hadn't fixed what I thought was a blaring issue, and both times I just felt so disconnected from the game and the world it was trying to build. I even attempted to play the game, but just like a meal that takes too long to get to you, I wasn't even sure if it was something I wanted anymore. Once again, this game could be something great, but I wouldn't know, and it all comes down to how poorly of an impression it made on me as a player. That impression was so poor, in fact, that I felt the need to make this video and tried to prevent anyone from using this method for a potential game they may be making. Writing for movies is an art, even more so for games, and showing the player rather than outright telling them will always yield a more positive experience. It creates that intrigue that makes them want to keep playing and forces them to want to invest their time into occupying the world set before them. The Necromancer's Tale could have the world's best gameplay and combat mechanics, but I'll never find out, and that is the power held by how a game begins. With that, that'll be it for this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, be kind to one another. Shoutouts go to Relativity, Naughty Dog is King, Chaos, and Kamikalo alongside all those subbed to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this style of video, as well as any openings of a game that might have killed your interest in it as well. But either way, I will see you soon.